House of the Dragon has treated us to tons of stunning views in just the first few episodes. The fantasy series was shot in a number of locations, some of which might look familiar to fans of Game of Thrones. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at 7 real-life locations the House of Dragon was shot at, so let's dive in. First off, the series features the stunning St. Michael's Mount. St. Michael's Mount is a rather iconic location you might have noticed in several movies and TV shows from the past. It's located in Cornwall, which is a county in southwestern England. The mount looks like something straight out of a fantasy series, making it a perfect addition to House of the Dragon. In the show, it's said to be the ancestral home of House Valeron. This notable house is where Lord Corlys, the Lord of the Tides, is from. Considering the affinity the house has to the sea, it makes total sense why the showrunners would want a location like St. Michael's Mount to represent their ancestral home. And it seems reaching the mount is about as tough in real life as it is in the show, and it can only be accessed when the tide is low. We wonder if that's the reason the Valerons have remained in power for so long. If the mount looks familiar at all, it's because it's been featured previously in films like James Bond's Never Say Never Again. In fact, it even got some screen time in Rowan Atkinson's Johnny English. It's safe to say this is a truly iconic place as far as the big screen is concerned. Its scenic views make it a choice location for shooting several different genres of film and TV productions. Alongside the sea, the shoot also features rolling hills. House of the Dragon is set in Westeros, and as we've already seen in Game of Thrones, there are a lot of different locations to explore on this fantastical continent. Some of the scenes from HBO's hit drama were shot at the hills of Derbyshire. The rolling hills and valleys of this location make it a great addition to the scenery of Westeros. From what we know, production took place at Castleton and a couple of the areas nearby. Cave Dale is another great spot in Derbyshire that we're likely to see in this season of House of the Dragon. This spot is truly one of a kind, with melting glaciers and even lined with limestone in some spots. We're sure whatever scene features this unique location is bound to look stunning. Shooting at all these unique locations must have been tough, but it just goes to show how HBO is really pulling out all the stops when it comes to the prequel of their acclaimed Game of Thrones series. We're not exactly sure if Cave Dale and the rest of Derbyshire have already made their appearance in the series, but we wouldn't be surprised if they had. Episode 3 of the show gave us a nice hillside view in the scene where Prince Daemon was discussing battle plans with House Valeron. The scene looked stunning and could have taken place in Derbyshire. The next real-life locations to be featured are 2 beautiful Spanish cities. Taking up the 3rd and 4th spots on our list are the awe-inspiring Spanish cities Cáceres and Trujillo. Both of these cities have a long history in Game of Thrones, and now they've also made their way to House of the Dragon. We're sure hardcore fans of the fantasy series will immediately recognize where this real-life location is supposed to be in Westeros. That's because this historic Spanish city is actually King's Landing. King's Landing is a major city in Westeros and one that has remained the hub for most kings who've ruled the continent. While in the original series it was largely under the control of the Lannister family, this time around things have changed. In House of the Dragon, we've gone a few centuries into the past and are seeing the time when House Targaryen used to rule the throne. Much like in this series, Cáceres and Trujillo are both a wonderland for anyone who's a fan of Roman buildings and the Renaissance. From the many unique buildings to the narrow walkways that made an appearance in episode 4, there's a lot of history and culture around every corner of these 2 Spanish cities. Luckily, unlike King's Landing, which had fire rained on it in Game of Thrones' final season, Cáceres and Trujillo are still very much intact and perfect for anyone who wishes to lay their eyes on some stunning architecture. Next, we're flying to the Portuguese village Monsanto. Back in the 20th century, Monsanto was referred to as the most Portuguese village in Portugal, and for good reason. The location has some amazing natural scenery with large boulders that are sometimes directly attached to buildings. There are also steep hills that add an unmatchable level of charm and allure to the whole place. So far, the location that has truly managed to wow its fans with its appearance in House of the Dragon is Dragonstone. The castle served as a home to the Targaryen family after they left Valyria. It's also where the Rogue Prince was sent to after his rather, let's just say, questionable actions at the end of episode 1. It's likely the Dragonstone scenes were shot at the famous mountaintop fortress called Castello. This is quite an impressive location which is brimming with history. It's known to have existed even before the Romans arrived, so no wonder the Targaryen family decided to settle here. Fans were blown away by how the fort was transformed into Dragonstone in the 2nd episode of the series. The rolling fog and steep hill structure offered a very contrasting look to the usual aesthetic we get with this show. Plus, the scene gave us a look at some new dragons, which is always a treat. While you'll likely be finding a lot of stones, unfortunately or perhaps elves. Fortunately, there won't be any dragons to sight in the real-life version. Going back to England, Surrey is the next location on this list. The world of A Song of Ice and Fire is largely designed around our own. Westeros is said to resemble England the most, so it isn't surprising to see so many English locations on this list. House of the Dragon also headed to Surrey. This is yet another hilly location, but this time it's much more quaint. There's natural woodlands and meadows to be found here, as well as some delightful country homes that look like they've been plucked straight from the medieval series. The location also has some amazing history attached to it, considering it was where the Magna Carta had been signed nearly 900 years ago. In episode 3 of House of the Dragon, we see the king treating his family and subjects to a hunt to celebrate the second name day of his son. The hunting scenes feature some natural woodlands, and we think those shots featured Surrey, so we've definitely got to praise Surrey for giving us such an amazing visual treat. The episode really stood out in terms of cinematography, and much of that was because of the great scenery on display. Rhaenyra goes off on her own after learning her father intends for her to be wed to a Lannister without her permission. The young princess runs into the woods and is chased by her knight. There are quite a few shots of Rhaenyra walking through the forest, and we get to the thick of the woodlands in their full glory. The princess decides to stay the night, but she's interrupted by a wild boar that attacks her. Luckily, she's ready and able to take it down just in time. Let's hope Millie Alcock didn't have to encounter any such beast roaming about in real life. Wrapping up this video, we've got Warner Brothers Leavesden Studio. So out of all the locations on this list, this might be the least real life of them all, but it's still the place where a lot of scenes from the series were shot. With the help of some innovative technology, some of the more fantastical sites of House of the Dragon were recreated digitally at Warner Brothers Leavesden Studio. The giant warehouse features an LED video stage which can be best described as state-of-the-art. We mean it. The quality of this stage is far beyond anything that Marvel or Disney have going on. That's probably why House of the Dragon looks as good as it does, minus those wigs, of course. We've got the technical engineers to thank for their amazing work in making this stage. In a series with dragons, it can be tough to create visuals that truly feel realistic, but the team at House of the Dragon seems to have done that quite well. That's a wrap for this video. Which of these locations from House of the Dragon would you like to visit the most? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.